Welcome to Fast Effect, Double Speed Magic the Gathering from ELD's Time Vault Games in Bellingham, Mass. Here we have Heather, one of the first adopters of our Wednesday and Friday night Legacy series, facing off against Socrates, one of our most recent welcome additions to our tournaments, playing all the way down in Australia. It's about as physically far as you can actually get from our shop here. Literally on the other side of the globe. Mother of Runes facing off against a couple of basic lands. Rashad and Port. One of the only ways to interact with those. And we've got a Port tapping down during the upkeep. Cavern of Souls coming down. And a Stoneforge Mystic. And I believe we are on Cephalid Breakfast. We are definitely on Cephalid Breakfast here. There's a list I actually talked with Socrates a little bit about. He did make the change that I had discussed a while ago on the channel about running Prismatic Vista and a little bit more in the way of basics. Having access to that swamp is an additional way of casting Limdul's Vault. And Wasteland takes out the Cavern of Souls. No white mana right now for Stoneforge activation, but Shuko not difficult to get down for only a colorless mana. Both of these Aether Vial decks without Aether Vial, so a little bit less explosive than they can be. And Shuko being cast, but no land drop being made. Now that might mean that Socrates has a dual land in hand to be protected from Wasteland. Ooh. The Apparition attempting to take out the Shuko, but instead we've got a Daze protecting it, and now Cephalid Illusionist comes down. Daze just an absolute blowout there, and Death and Tax is not going to have any responses while tapped out, especially game one. We've got a Cabal Therapy, and for those unfamiliar, we're going to go 3 cards at a time until all of these Narcomeepas enter the battlefield, and then from there, Dread Return is going to be able to bring back that Thassa's Oracle for the win. If there was any doubt, a couple of Cabal Therapies can clear the way, but the entire deck list has been revealed here. Victory in Game 1 will go to Socrates. Heather learning complete information about that deck list. Pretty well foiled out as well. And that is going to do it as Thassa's Oracles trigger. Very, very difficult to respond to. Anything short of Stifle, not going to get the job done. The way they worded that card is pretty brutal. They could have made it still a very solid playable card, even if the devotion had to be greater than the number of cards in your library. It just has to be equal to or greater than, meaning that if they do Lightning Bolt all of your blue mana off of the board, that triggered ability is still going to lead to victory. So Socrates picking up game number 1 versus Death and Taxes. And, you know, I got to feel like Cephalid Breakfast is probably favored in this matchup. They're very similar decks. Aether Vial can be a really brutal card against all of the mana denial. Death and Taxes does have Revoker. Yeah, I don't know. Which one do you think is favored in this matchup? I feel like I would rather be on the side of the combo deck in this type of matchup, especially given Death and Taxes not having Force of Will or anything to interact on the stack. Those Wastelands may be kind of bricked by the amount of basic lands And also, you don't need that many lands. That's another big thing. You can easily win off of 2 lands. I mean, 3 lands is the whole combo. Like, you're literally doing both halves of the combo in the same turn for 3 mana. Either Nomad or Shuko, plus that Cephalid Illusionist. Oh, thought we might have to pause the video there. Get a little bit of lag. But we should be good. Yeah, Death and Taxes with that new apparition. 3 mana, exiling a non-land permanent, and then when he leaves the battlefield, they get an XX apparition or spirit token. Really interesting in Death and Taxes, as you can actually Flicker Wisp in response to the trigger to get 2 permanents, kind of reminiscent of the older builds of Death and Taxes that used to run Mangara along with the Karakas to be able to tap him and then bounce him before his ability exiles himself. Another instance of kind of unusual wording on cards, and we've got a Umezawa's Jite, one of the strongest cards against this deck, period. Those -1/-1 counters, hugely difficult to overcome. Just started recording for the day here. Sorry about that. Phone on silent now. I do these in one take, so sadly no editing. Goes along with getting out a video a day here in 2020. You know, if the channel ever gets big enough, I could definitely see a point where we do some more editing. Oh, and wow, so Brainstorm actually finds Force of Will. You know, with that Mishra's Factory on board, it is a little difficult to just let that Jite resolve and expect to win. At a certain point, they're going to be able to actually activate the factory and equip Jite to it. All you need is a couple of counters. Oh, but Walking Ballista too. Whew, that is rough. Walking Ballista, and I think Heather finds herself favored pretty quickly here. Just the ability to ping that Cephalid. It's pretty huge. 3 damage. Attempting to come in here. And we've got a fetch for a Tundra. And leaving 2 mana open. So not equipping... Oh, sorry, the Jite got countered. Swords to Plowshares. Taking out the factory. So not worrying about the damage right now, just looking to stay alive as long as possible. Though next turn, with a land drop, this Walking Ballista, even if the rest of the cards in hand are just total trash, would become a 2/2. Very interesting. 1 damage coming in. Oh, and we've got the other Swords to Plowshares, so I guess that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. We've got a couple of cards that should be exiled there. Probably won't be relevant. The Factory and the Walking Ballista. Actually, the Factory would be exiled. The Walking Ballista would have removed the counter in response, so just the Factory should be exiled, I believe. Thalia coming down. And not nearly as good against Cephalid Breakfast as it is versus many combo decks. You really only need to resolve just the single Dread Return, and not even mandatory. Like, you can actually win without using Dread Return if you can get that Thassa's Oracle into hand. In Limdul's Vault during the end step, this is very often game over. It looks like staying pat with those top 5. Draw step. Now playing Cephalid Illusionist and the Nomad and Core. Heather's got a 2-mana Swords to Plowshares here on the Cephalid. And depending on how Socrates' hand lines up with redundancy, I'm guessing there's a Cephalid on top. We will see. With the breakfast combo. Oh, and this is getting bad. Apparition going to be able to take out this Nomad. Socrates tapped out, no way to force of will this, even if he had it. And Wasteland takes out the Tundra. Stacking or choosing to sequence, that does make a lot of sense that he has redundancy on the Illusionist. Whichever piece you have more of, you want to jam that one first to kind of force their hand with their Swords to Plowshares. If you have 2 Cephalid Illusionists, you can play that one first and then play your Nomad and Core, and at that point they have to take out your Illusionist. If they attempt to take out the Nomad and Core, that is not going to work out in their favor, as they'll be able to just combo anyways. And this is coming right down to the wire. We've got an Umezawa's Jite. Oh, and a Phyrexian Revoker. That's going to stop that Jite from doing anything at all. And we are on to game number 3. A very solid match so far. All right, we're into game 3 here. Underground Sea into Aether Vial. If left unchecked, that is going to speed the deck up significantly and allow for that mana base to be used for cantrips to pull the combo together. Aether Vial, one of the strongest starts to the deck, possibly the strongest. I mean, you can just go turn 1 Nomad, turn 2 Illusionist. Nothing wrong with that, but if you lead with Aether Vial, you actually can still pull the whole combo together. During the end step, Aether Vial activates, puts in Mother of Runes. That eats the Swords to Plowshares. Wasteland has taken out Underground Sea, but Vial up to 2 counters. Now Stoneforge Mystic coming in. We'll see if it grabs that Shuko or the Batterskull. Not yet at 2 mana, so Batterskull does require finding another land. And the combo may just be the stronger line, even post-board versus Death and Taxes. We've got the Shuko and a Violet too. And now it's dangerous for Heather to walk away from Swords to Plowshares mana, period. But she's got a Stoneforge Mystic worth the risk, finding a Jite. A couple of more turns and things will be okay. But does she have that time? Going to need 2 mana to put in, and then 2 mana to equip, and then going to need to connect. I mean, this is a multi-step process here. During the end step, here comes the Cephalid. If Heather doesn't have any responses, this is going to do it, and it will. So Shuko, not as safe as Nomad and Core, as it does open up for some possibilities. But oh, and Socrates showing he actually has the Thassa's Oracle in hand, so even if Heather did have a Fairy Macabre or Surgical Extraction, anything, well, Surgical would still work. So one of the things that's pretty cool about this deck is when you have the Thassa's Oracle, you can actually put it into the battlefield and then respond by milling yourself out with the Nomad and Core, making it much more preferable to the Shuko post-board. But that game, Shuko, more than enough to take out Death and Taxes in 3. That is all for this one, but don't worry, there is a lot more. You can check out our older videos, and we're always putting out new videos from ELD's Time Vault Games in Bellingham, Massachusetts. If you want to help the channel, of course, you can like, subscribe, share, tap that notification bell so you can know the next time our new videos come out. Thanks for watching.